Room 21 Rockstar families, and welcome to our very first podcast. It's so great to see all of you. It was a great first week in Room 21. So you're probably wondering, first of all, why is Mr. Reichert in a Steeler jersey? Well, I was rooting on my Pittsburgh Steelers today, but they didn't do so well. And the second question you probably have is, why should I watch the weekly podcast? What am I going to get out of it? Well, two major things are going to come from it. Number one, it's going to inform you about what just happened in class the previous week. And number two, it's going to give you some really great hands-on strategies to practice at home in your daily routine. So, the first thing that we're going to do every week in our weekly podcast is actually recognize our rock star of the week. This week, our rock star of the week is Jack Tippling because of his extreme courage in class this week. And we talked a lot about what courage is. So I was really happy with that. So congratulations to Jack Tippling. So what do we do this past week? Well, number one, we talked a lot about metacognitive skills, which are how does our brain work? How do we think? We talked about a lot of brain research. We learned a lot about the brain, and the underlying main idea, the message we learned about the brain is simple. With practice, you'll work out your brain like a muscle, and you're going to get smart. That was our major message. We also took a multiple intelligence quiz, which told each student what their strength of learning style is. And it was so great to see them once they tabulated up the results, because actually many of them said, hey, Mr. Reichert, this is actually me. So the one thing I want you to know about that is every week when I plan my lessons, I really look at each of the multiple intelligences to see and look at each student's strength. Now, obviously, not every lesson is going to fit every student's multiple intelligence or their learning style. So we're going to be talking a lot about in class, how can you approach a lesson that might not be your strength and learning style, which is a really valuable skill for the future. Now, upcoming this week, first of all in math, we're going to be working a ton with decimals. If you could actually remind your student to wear a white shirt or anything white tomorrow, that would be great. I don't want to give away any more of the surprise, but it's going to be a great math lesson, and I'm sure you will hear about it at home. Now, a way you can actually practice decimals at home is by using money. You may not think about this every day, but actually when you go to the store and say that your total is $2.25, that is actually working with decimals, because we have $2.25, or 25 hundredths in that case. And we're actually going to look at money this week and look at a lot of those different skills. One of the major things we're working with decimals this week is being able to identify the standard, expanded, and word form of each of those decimals. And I actually have more information on our Class Fusion page about those three forms in math, which you can look at if you would like. In reading, we're going to be focusing on two things. Number one, we're going to be focusing on determining the main idea of a passage. And number two, we're going to be focusing on our 40 book goal. I know a few students had a little bit of anxiety about the 40 book goal at the beginning of the week, but I can assure you that they will get there if they're reading 20 to 30 minutes every night, and they have plenty of opportunities to read all throughout the day in class as well. With main idea, the general message is, what is the entire passage mostly about when we read something? So you could pick up a magazine article, a newspaper article, anything, and just ask your student, what was this article mostly about? A strategy that I'll be teaching the students this week in class is actually called the GIST strategy. The GIST strategy is when you write down 10 to 15 words that you hear over and over in a passage. When you're finished reading the passage, you read through those words and make a sentence based on those words. It's a really useful strategy to use in the home for main idea and at school, because main idea is always one of those reading comprehension strategies that really stinks sometimes for a lot of students. Another strategy you can use this week in social studies is actually just to go outside. We're talking about geographic land features this week, so I'm actually going to take you around and just show you the back. And we're talking about mountain ranges and lakes and rivers and tributaries, so it'd be great just to take your student outside to look at all of the different geographic land features and talk about them. Talk about the name of them. Actually see them. That's the biggest goal of the week for us in social studies, is to visualize all of the geographic landforms and the 8 geographic regions of the United States that we'll be studying. In writing this week, we're actually working on making our writing fluent. So actually being able to write without stopping and getting that writer's block. So your student may have talked to you this past week about our morning routine, which is the daily mind dump. Students actually have to write to fill up an entire page without skipping any lines every morning, and they can write about anything at all. But there are two rules. You can never take your pencil off the paper, and number two, you can't go back to read what you just wrote. You have to fill up the entire page, and then you can go back and read. There will be a vocabulary assessment on Friday. The vocabulary words are located on the Class Fusion page. The link is right there. And we will be working with them all week long. Every student has a vocabulary journal that they'll be bringing home, and we'll be practicing and practicing all week long in class. But it will be helpful to also practice those at home as well, so that we can ensure success on Friday on the exam. Finally, at this point in the podcast every week, we're actually going to have a student work feature. This week we don't quite have it yet, but next week I'm hoping that we're going to have some student work that we'll be able to showcase as we get the year rolling. Finally, two places that you can visit to always keep informed. Number one would be the Barrett Academy blog. The link is right here. This actually chronicles the journey of the Barrett Academy, how it started, and all the events that take place. And finally, our Class Fusion page, which is the link is located right here. I put links on this site, our class schedules on this site, our newsletters are on this site, what we're doing in classes on this site. It's so useful. I hope you visit it at least once a day to keep informed about what is going on in our class. Finally, if you ever have any questions or concerns, do not hesitate to contact me. It has been such a pleasure to work with the Room 21 Rockstars so far, and I am so excited about what we're going to be able to accomplish this week. Have a great week, Rockstar.